The word Omer?
It's a measurement.
It's a measurement. Is she right?
Yeah.
Why are we counting measurements? Is it a measurement or not? Is it a liquid measure, a dry measure? What would be an equivalent name for it in English? If an Omer is a measurement. Measurement of what? Is it wheat? Who said it was wheat? Isn't that strange? Now here's what we need to do. I want to explain to you what's going on. We're going to do it like this. If we're counting the Rabbi, in general, it's 14 times in the entire Tanakh, maybe 7, 8 times in Chumash. If that word comes up, we have to go and see where it is the first time. Anyone know where the word Omer is the first time in Chumash? Where's the first time we have the word Omer? Anyone remember? Where? That's the Korban Omer is what we're counting to. That's in Sefer Vayikra. We read that 2 weeks ago on Shabbat. Anyone know where it was beforehand? So you know the story, you had no idea it was there. Do you remember the story of what Am Yisrael ate when they were in the desert?
Yeah.
What's the word again? What's that? That's a joke. Why is it called man? Because the bread came from heaven, and the people asked, what is this? And they called it manu. Did you learn that story, but in 4th grade, 3rd grade? You learned that sometime? Yeah. The man came. The people ran out of food, God gave them the man. Is that good or bad? It's good. Now, were there any laws that came with the man?
Yes.
How many laws came with the man? What was the main law that came with the man?
Don't take more for...
How much can you take?
Just enough for...
As much as you need, and not as much as you want. Understand? That was the law. That was one law. What was the other law?
You have to take like double on Fridays because there's not going to be on
Yeah, you need to take
Shabbat.
double on Friday because you can't take on Shabbat. Understand? If you were a kid, if you got one every day and Friday you got double, you expect Shabbos you get 4. Understand? Don't kids think that way? Or in camp. Anyone go to camp? Do you get like shoko on Shabbos morning or Friday morning? Or sweet cereals, something special Friday morning? Because they learn from here. Let's see where they got it from. So, here's what's happening. Those are 2 laws that come with the month. You have it? Now, how much money can you take? Again? What you need? I want to take a wild guess at what they used to collect the money? They had a little cup, a little utensil. Okay? And that utensil was called a Omer. You knew that? We're going to read about it now. Where's the page? Here we go. Look in Chumash. We're going to read like this. Who's my reader? Who's my reader? My reader, my reader, my reader. You only have 15 minutes for a long share. You can read loud and clear? You got to read good.
The story of Mana. ויסעו מעילים ויבואו כל הדף בני ישראל אל מדבר סיד ב-15 יום לחודש השני לצאתם מארץ
This is
ישראל.
fine. On the 15th of the year, how long has it been since we left Egypt? A month. We're on the way to, have we gotten to Mount Sinai yet? No. 15th of the year and they run out of food. The 15th of the year, remember the day. Go ahead. Vayilonu?
ויילונו כל הדף בני ישראל על משה ועל אהרון.
They complain because they run out of water. Jews, when there is food, they complain, don't they? The other Jewish waitress? Right? She comes to the table, the waitress comes to the Jewish table. She says, is anything okay? No. When there is food, they complain. When there's no food, even more so. And God wants them to complain. Skip the pasuk Dalvin. Listen what God tells them. Vayomer Hashem.
ויאמר השם למשה הנני ממתיר לכם מן השמיים.
That's wordplay. You need mamtir lechem, comma, lechem min hashamayim. What's going to happen? It's going to rain bread or food from heaven. Continue.
ויצא העם וילכתו דבר יום ביומו למען אנסה הילך בתורתי עמו.
What's going to happen? Why is God giving us bread from heaven? Why is He starving us and then giving us manna? Why? Leman anaseno. What's that mean? He's going to test you. Will you follow my Torah? Now, an nisayon is not a mivchan. A mivchan is a test for the teacher to figure out how well she taught. An nisayon is for the student. It's a learning experience that you grow from. Like, remember the Akedah, Hashem Nisat Abraham? In Yiddish, it's called a nisayon. You've heard that word at home? A nisayon is a life experience. It's difficult, but you learn from that experience. Understand? So what's God doing? I'm giving you a difficult experience, but that's to prepare you to receive the Torah. Before God can give him 613, let's see if they can keep 2. What are the 2 laws? Taking as much as you need, not as much as you want. It's called not hoarding. You know what happens in the Kiddush? You gotta be in position, because there might not be enough for everybody, so you gotta get before. You know how it works, don't you? Stand at the table so no one's there. And that's one law. Take as much as you need, not as much as you want, which is between man and man as well. It's like not hoarding. Because if you're going to be God's people, that's a key trait that God's people have to have. And also, keeping Shabbat between God and man. Make sense? No. And then how much? Remember, they take 6 days. We do the short version. Now, skip to Pasuk Tetzayim. Listen, here's the big word. How much can they take? V'zeh? Omer Lagogolet.
Oh, Omer Lagogolet.
And Vayamodu Omer. Got it? Vayamodu means they measured. This is what happens. Everyone in the desert had a little cup, like a napla, like a Nekovasu cup. You know what that is? Maybe a little bigger. And that's what they used to collect the Omer. Now, what was the value of that cup? So look at the very last line. Where's it saying? I'm sorry, it's not on here. But it says later on, the Omer is a tenth of an ephah. You've heard of the word isaron? The standard dry measure in all of Tanakh. A tenth of an ephah. That's the classic dry measure, like a bag of flour. It's always called an isaron. Isaron lekebes, remember that? It's everywhere. Right out of your siddur. Only here is it called Omer. Omer is a special word in relation to the man. Now, the volume of this container was a tenth of an ephah. Chumash tells us that later on. But here it's called an Omer. Make sense? And therefore, to a Jew in the desert, when you say the word Omer, what does it mean? It means the bread that we're eating in the desert. And that whole experience. Now, look at source C now. That's Omer, and if you remember something else, remember this got you ready for Har Sinai? Later on, God's going to tell Moshe Rabbeinu, to tell Aaron to take a little container of man, how much? It's intended man of Omer, and put it where? Where's it going to go? In our National Archive. You know we have a National Archive? It's called the Kodesh Kodeshim. What's in there? The Aron, and what's inside the Aron? Luchot HaBrit, which we got at Har Sinai. And therefore, what's that tell you? That the Omer and the whole man experience is preparation for Matan Torah. Because if you don't know how to share, if you don't know, if you're a person who hoards and thinks only about themselves and doesn't respect God either, keeping Shabbat, you're not ready to receive the Torah. It's an important reminder. Now, that was our training experience in the desert. Now, look what happens now, and see who wants to take over. Who's my next reader? Next reader, take it away. Everyone see C, counting the days?
Yeah.
Okay. This was Sefer Shemot. Now we get to Sefer Vayikra, Parshat Omer, and our famous law. Ledaber? I like it. I get a smile out of you now. Listen. Now we have a law. When we come to the land of Israel, not the desert, but when we get to the desert, when we get to the land of Israel, and we begin our grain harvest, which is what in the land of Israel? Does grain grow all year long in Israel? You know how it works there? There's only one season a year. Grain doesn't grow all year long. There's no Costco there. There's only one season. It's about 2 months long. From April, May, and the beginning of June. That's it. What do we eat the rest of the year? We have to store it. The grain grows once, and then we store it till the next year. Same thing, grapes grow once a year, olives, and then we can squeeze the olives, we can make wine out of the grapes, make raisins, make dried figs, dates, and things like that. But they're only a couple months a year each season. And therefore, there's one grain season that begins in late March, early April, and lasts about 2 months, and that's the food for the end of the year. And that's why at the end of that harvest season, we have what's called Chag HaKatzir. What do we do? What's it saying? When we come to Israel, as soon as the harvest begins in the spring, sometime in March, as soon as the grain is ready to harvest, we're going to go to the Beit HaMikdash as a nation, and we're going to bring a special korban. We're going to make a statement. You know what that means? When you make a statement? And in the Beit HaMikdash, we're going to bring a special korban, an offering. And what are we going to call it? Omer. Why? Now, what do we bring? We're going to bring barley because that's the only thing that's the first grain that's ready. But the word Omer doesn't mean barley. The word Omer means, what does Omer mean? That was a little cup we used in the desert. We're about to collect our grain. And that's going to be our staple in the land of Israel. You realize what statement we're making? Why would we as a nation begin talking about the manna when we start collecting our grain in the land of Israel? Do you put it together yet? You guys aren't smiling. Yeah? You're smiling.
Because it all comes from Hashem.
So what are we saying?
Like, even the grain each year comes from Hashem, just as the manna came from Hashem. It's just not
The
as
manna
obvious of a
I know the manna
miracle.
comes from Hashem because it comes down from heaven.
Yeah.
But the grain, I'm the farmer. I did it myself. Understand? Even though you're doing it yourself, you're living with nature. Because what happens when you do everything yourself? Hey, I did it. If I can treat my grain harvest as though it's manna, whoa, you follow? I appreciate God. If I can live with nature and treat nature like it's a miracle, because what is nature? A miracle that happens every day? If I can treat nature like a miracle, then I understand my relationship with God. And that's going to be the law. Then what do? Then we wave the Omer. See Pasuk Yud Aleph. V'nifet Omer lifnei Hashem b'morchat haShabbat. And then what do? Then we count 7 weeks. Where do those 7 weeks coincide with? What? That's exactly a harvest season. That's exactly the harvest season in the land of Israel. When it's over, we have a holiday called Chag HaKatzir. But we're counting the weeks. Why are we counting the weeks? And what do we talk about every day during those weeks? We talk about Omer. Now, let me explain. We have 4 minutes. Flip the page over. Go to source F, the last one. We're going to read a story, a speech by Moshe Rabbi. You've heard of him, right? Famous Rabbi. Right back. He was leader for some 40 years. And before he dies, he gives a goodbye speech in the 40th year in the book of Dvarim. And he reminds the people what was the message of the desert experience. Understand? So take a look in F. Let's skip to Pasuk Bet. For a short time. It says, "V'zachartem kol haderech asher holecha Hashem Elokecha zeh 40 shana b'midbar." Remember these 40 years in the desert. Laman anotcha lanasotcha. To do what? To test you. To know will you follow God, yes or no. What was the purpose of the desert experience? It was like, so are you ready to be God's people in the land? And that was a training experience. What did God do? He afflicted you and made you hungry, and then He gave you the man, which you never saw, to teach you that we don't live to eat, we eat to live. That's Pasuk 8. Skip to Pasuk to part 2. F2, which is Pasuk Het. Pasuk Zayin. Moshe, after telling the people, remember your desert experience, why do you need to remember your school experience, your training experience? It's like a Camp Moshava kind of thing. Where you go through an activity or pu'ula to teach you something. Why? Because God's bringing you to a land that's very good. Look at Pasachet, Eretz Chita v'Sorah. Remember those 7 species? The Eretz, they have everything you need. And see Yod, remember? When you come to land, you have to remember that the land is from God. And therefore, when you eat, who do you have to thank? And what bracha do we make before we eat? Hamotzi. Where's that phrase come from? What did we eat in the desert? Where did the man come from? Remember? Ani mamtir lechem, lechem min hashamayim. In the desert, it's lechem min hashamayim. And where? And in Israel, it's lechem min haaretz. In the desert, the water comes from where? From the ground, remember? Moshe Rabbeinu on the rock. And in the land of Israel, the water comes from the heaven. See the opposite? It's to train you. And therefore, the bracha we make, we're saying, we're treating our bread like it's man. Now, why is this important? Why do you have to thank God? Pasuk, part 3, see Yud Aleph. Hishamer lecha means be careful, beware. Why? When you come into the land of Israel, you might forget God. Why can't you forget God in the desert? You see Him every day. It's raining man. Not be balls and spaghetti. But it's raining man. Got that? You can't forget Him. It's obvious. But in the land of Israel, you might forget Him. Why? You don't see Him. That obvious. Okay? See that? And you might get too wealthy. Look in Pasuk Yudalid, short version. What might happen is unheard of. You might make your own living and you might become haughty and obnoxious. Never happens, things like that. Okay? And that might cause you, your prosperity might lead to affluence that might lead you to forget God and think that you're a God. And you're going to get Pasuk Tezayin, you're going to forget the God who gave you man in the desert. Right? in order to test you. You forgot what you learned in school. You're going to go out in life and you forget what they tried to teach you when you were in Mayano. Understand? We try to teach you something, you didn't get the message. What might you say? Pasuk Yitzayin, V'yamarti b'avavecha, kochiv otzem yadi asar li et hachai laseh. Anyone ever hear that pasuk before? People say, hey, I did it myself. No. There's an easy solution to the problem, is what? Stay in the desert. We call stay in Kola. Put yourself in a situation where you need God all the time. Chumash says, no. Come to the land of Israel. Be somebody. Be prosperous. But when in your prosperity, don't use it to forget God, but remember God. And then when you're prosperous, what do you do with your prosperity? You become like God. God took care of us in the desert. You become like God and do what? You take care of others. There's a whole Megillah about it called Megillah Ruth. And guess what? She's collecting Omerim. Take a look at Megillah Ruth later on. She collects Omerim. Omerim is what the poor people take. It's in Sefer Dvarim also. You take Omerim in the field. Now, Pasuk Yudchet, V'zacharta et Hashem Elokecha ki hu hanoten lechago achasot chayo. God is the one who gives you the ability to. So you have to be somebody who thinks he's a nobody. Now you understand how Omer is so important? Why are we bringing Omer? To remember what? To remember, to find God in day-to-day life. And how do we apply that in day-to-day life? That's what being Jewish is about. About being a somebody, looking at God in nature, and being godly. And the way we serve God is not only in bringing sacrifices, but how we treat our fellow men. Like the whole experience of the monk was to teach us, remember, no hoarding, and recognizing God at the same time. Now, therefore, the whole Omer experience was preparation for Matan Torah. Now, this is also the first time we have a week in Chumash. Why? Up until here in Chumash, we never heard about a week. Other than the story of creation, which we don't get until Har Sinai. But we don't hear the Avot in Pshat. There's no week, there's no calendar of a week. There's a month. So if there's no week yet, how do we know what day to take Friday? How do we know when Friday is? I'm going to show you something which is amazing. Where did the Jewish week begin? Where's our first experience that we have a week? Where's the first time we have a week? No, we don't get that story till later. No one's keeping a calendar since creation. What? That's it. It's before Har Sinai. What day did we arrive at Har Sinai? It's 15th of Iyar. See that? That was the first line. They run out of food, and they complain. What does God say? Tomorrow it's going to rain man. What was the first day the man came? What day of the month was it? The 16th. On the 16th of Iyar it began to fall man, and that was the first day of the week. And every day man came, until when? Until the 6th day, until Good Friday. And we got double. You follow? And the next day was Shabbat. What was the first Shabbat in Jewish history? Do the math. It started falling on the 16th.
22nd.
Okay, you guys better go back to math class. Need a calculator? The 16th was the first Sunday, right? So what's the first Good Friday? 21st was the Friday. 22nd was Shabbat. How do you remember that? Right? What happened? What made Sunday the first Sunday? Man. The first day the man fell was the first Sunday. If you want to remember it, the first Sunday was a... Understand? Our first Sunday was the first day we got the man. Can't forget it now. First Sunday was a Monday. Our first Shabbos was the 22nd. Got that? Did we go out? Did we learn the hard way or not? People went out. Remember the story? They didn't find. They didn't keep the first Shabbat. The next Shabbos was the 29th, wasn't it? Hopefully they kept. The next Shabbos was the 36th. How come you're laughing? What's wrong with the 36th? What? Oh, that's right. So how many days in a month? Well, sometimes 29, sometimes 30. How do we know? How do we decide? Depends on the new moon. So therefore, what was the next Shabbat? Two possibilities. Either when. The next Shabbat was, if the 29th was one Shabbat, it's either what? If it was a 29-day month, and it'd be the 6th or the 7th. Ring a bell? What day was the Torah given? There's an argument. Don't the rabbis argue? Was it the 6th or the 7th? But look in the Gemara, it says, everyone holds the Torah was given on Shabbat. You say that in davening, you have it in Zmirot. Everybody smack Shabbat? Smack Moshe Shabbat? Everyone holds that the Torah was given on Shabbat. They argue was it the 6th or the 7th. Because when Am Yisrael kept the second Shabbat in a row, we kept 2 Shabbatos, and what happened? We get the Torah. We're reading. You follow what happens? Now, and because the first time we have an experience of a week, what is it? It's the man experience. And the entire man experience is preparation for Mamad Har Sinai. It's the most basic mitzvot, because being Jewish is not only serving God. It's the way you serve God is by how you treat your fellow man. As a person, as an individual, and as a nation, and as a community. And by setting an example for other nations. In everything you do, and your national behavior as well. Half the mitzvot in Chumash are about that. You'll see that when you study Chumash. And therefore, preparation before we get Matan Torah is a test of the man. And the whole week, the whole experience of the Jewish week begins right here. And therefore, the whole concept of the Jewish week is rooted in the Omer. Got that? And that Omer experience is key. It's right in our national archive. Remember? The Amman with the Luchot HaBrit. And therefore, what do we call the holiday? Because Shavuot is the you understand why it's called Shavuot? When you understand the whole man experience and the whole story, and you understand what happens now? And therefore, Omer, remember, Omer it's a grain harvest holiday because it's a grain harvest. But the message of the grain harvest holiday, what are we going to do with our grain? And therefore, we have V'samachta lifnei Hashem Elokecha on the grain harvest. Who? Where? In front of God. And what do we have to do? We have to make the Ger, Yatom, and Amana happy. And the Levite, those who don't have. Read Sefer Dvarim. There's a mitzvah to forget the Omer in the field, called Shichacha and Leket. And the way you apply that idea of Omer is in your day-to-day life as a Jew, especially in the land of Israel. Therefore, it's Chag HaKatzir, but also Chag Shavuot. Because the original Shavuot, the whole week experience, and the whole man experience is preparation for Matan Torah and the application in the land of Israel. So hopefully our time's almost up, isn't it? Yeah. So there's one yet. Now, the next time we have the word Omer in Torah is going to be in Megillat Ruth. Because what's she doing? Remember? She's a ger. She's a stranger. Who's the rich guy? Boaz. He's a wealthy man. And what are the people doing? They're reaping the harvest, and they leave over. And who comes and collects the leftovers? And guess what she's collecting? Omerim. And that's where Megillat Ruth comes into the story as well. Now, there's one last thing, which is really neat. Does it make sense what we did? You know the idea of Omer? Now, when you count Omer, you understand what you're counting? Omer is a measure. Like, you ever make a cake, you have a cup of flour? A cup of flour is not like a cup of milk. There's a cup of milk or a cup of, like a cup of coffee. There's all different sizes, but a cup is 8 ounces. A cup can be a cup, it can be a measure. The Omer was like a cup. Right? But it measured, its volume was a tenth of an ephah. And that whole experience is what is going to remind us of getting ready for Har Sinai. Now, is there a mitzvah in Chumash where we actually redo Mamad Har Sinai, where the whole nation comes together and celebrates and relives Matan Torah? It's called Hakel. You heard of it?
Yeah.
When did we celebrate Hakel? Every 7 years. Why every 7 years? It's always at the end of the Shemitah year. Now, what replaces Mount Sinai at Hakel? Where do we go to? We don't go to Mount Sinai anymore. We go to the Beit HaMikdash. That's Rabbi, because the Beit HaMikdash is a new Mount Sinai, because the Kodesh Kodeshim is the Luchot. The Mikdash is that thing. The year before is the Shemitah year. What do we do during Shemitah? Shemitah, everything grows wild. You're supposed to eat from the land, but who does the produce belong to during Shemitah? And therefore, what do you eat? It belongs to everyone. It means it's hefker. So during the year before Hakel, there's food for everybody. But how much can you take during Shemitah? Want to take a wild guess? As much as you can. It's enough for a day at a time. So before the summer months before Hakel, before Sukkot, the entire people of Israel, what are they doing? We've recreated the manna experience in the land of Israel. Because what was the manna? Everything's covered everywhere. There's food for everybody. You can only take as much as you need. That's a training experience for Matan Torah. And therefore, every 7 years, what do? We recreate the desert experience in preparation for Hakel. So that when we remember what it feels like to only have enough for a day at a time, when we become the owner, we know what it feels like to be the worker. And we know how to take care and be sensitive. And what to do with our prosperity. And just like once a week, remember Shabbat? Once every 7 years, we reset our cycle. Now, where does Chumash tell us if there's a connection between Shemitah and Har Sinai? What parsha are the laws of Shemitah? Were you in shul this week? Yeah. What was the famous question? Why are the laws of Shemitah introduced with? Remember, it always says by Davar Hashem Moshe Lemor. Why is by Davar Hashem Moshe Har Sinai Lemor? You heard that question? Ma'ayin Shemitah to Har Sinai?
Yeah.
No, the answer is obvious. Because Shemitah is progression for Har Sinai. And that explains how everything, all that comes together. And if you know the psukim about Shemitah, the number 7 times 7 and then 50, isn't Shemitah and Yovel almost identical? Because Shemitah is going to take the Omer and Man experience and bring it for eternity in the land of Israel in cycles of 50. 7 sevens and 49. The rest is Kabbalah already. The 7s and Sphirot. You see how it turns into? Right? So don't tell me that Shvut isn't about Matan Torah. It's also about Chag Katzir. If you don't understand agriculture in the land of Israel and the story of the Man, you wouldn't appreciate how beautiful the mitzvah of Omer is. Already? We'll stop there.